All right, good evening, everybody out there on in the YouTube space and on Facebook and down the road listening on the podcast. This is Chris from the Common Grounds podcast. Tonight, we've got another episode of Meet Your Roaster or Meet Your Coffee Roaster. We're going to go back to episode 3. If you've been in with me since the beginning, I interviewed Joseph from Zelie Beans Coffee. I keep on having to remind myself it's Zelie like jelly. So we'll be bringing Joseph on here in a few minutes, but a couple big things coming on Roasters Marketplace that we're working on. Since Roasters Marketplace is the sponsor of this show, we've got some interesting projects in the works that I'm just going to give it a teaser out of. We're launching our first white label coffee. That will be going to a major podcast. We're really, really looking forward to getting some traffic from them and supporting their awesome podcast through a special roast, which is really amazing and a really cool opportunity. And they're expanding our B2B line a little bit as well. But enough about that, enough from our sponsor. Tonight is all about Joseph and what he's got going on at Zelie Beans Coffee. So we're going to roll in to the show with a little Dom Coors. All right, welcome to the show, Joseph. How you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Life keeps on moving, so we move along with it.
We've changed up a little bit since the last time you were on. Mm-hmm. We're in our whole new studio now. You're still slaving away there.
I'm still slumming it compared to you.
We all have got different ways of getting set up. So tell us a little bit about what you've been up to. But first, let's revisit how you got into specialty coffee for our listeners who might not have tuned into episode 3.
Yeah, so I have loved coffee since I was I still have vivid memories of drinking coffee when I was 10 or 11 years old. If it stunted my growth, it kept me from becoming a monster because I'm 6'2", 6'3", so did not drastically stunt my growth. Thank goodness. So I've loved coffee for a long time. And when I was about 24, 25 years old in 2008, I discovered that you could roast your own coffee. And I was hooked. I started home roasting my coffee. I got one of those little Be More coffee roasters. Looks like a little toaster oven with the rotisserie cage in there. And I've been roasting ever since. 2 years ago, my wife and I were expecting baby number 3. And I was working at a church at the time. My wife is a teacher. And we're like, we can't afford baby number 3. What are we going to do? And my wife suggested I start selling the coffee I was roasting. I absolutely thought she was crazy. I didn't think it was going to work because the show she's the smart one between the two of us. And I just ended up researching. Like I do anything, I start researching the crap out of it. And I talked to a local coffee shop where he roasts his own coffee, and I was getting some feedback from him, and he offered for me to start up by using his own roaster, renting time on his roaster and being able to store my green coffee in his green storage room. And since I was a bit the bullet and did it, and that was 2 years ago, August. So I've been doing this 2 years solid as Zelie Beans Coffee. So yeah.
That's awesome. And what have you been up to since the last time we talked? I know you've launched several more roasts. You've changed up your lineup a little bit.
Yeah.
And one of those things I want to talk about before we get into some other subjects is how you source your coffee, because that's really, really important to us at Roasters Marketplace and the Common Grounds podcast, because that's one of our goals and one of our missions is to make sure everybody in the chain is responsibly sourcing coffee and doing it in a sustainable way for everybody in the chain, but primarily the farmer.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit how you approach sourcing coffee to where you can still develop a relationship with the farmer.
Yeah, so that's a very good question, because that's a big part of my mission as Zelie Beans Coffee. So Zelie Beans Coffee, we're mission focused, and our mission is families helping families through specialty coffee. Like, this started out as a need for my own family, but at the same time, I knew the dire straits that coffee producers, coffee growers in coffee producing countries, what they're dealing with, and how majority of them are family owned farms, and that they just weren't making enough money to survive off of. And like, their children were leaving the farms for the big cities to get minimum wage jobs at best in the cities. They were not getting good education. And I couldn't stand that. So it's the idea of like my family being a part of this, helping other families, and then the consumers and their families, like being a part of this whole process of helping everyone along the way, like make living wages and make a decent living and not have to be struggling so much. And that's different for everyone, especially when you're talking about countries in Latin America and Africa and Indonesia, but and then compared here to the United States. The way I basically state it is, if the family has children, which most families do, if the children want to be able to go to further education, that the family has the ability to send them to further education. And then ideally that the children then have the ability to choose to be able to come back home and help and work at the farm and continue to further their family's business, or they find another career opportunity. What I have discovered is a lot of times the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, that they love the idea of being able to go away, get educated, and come back to continue to help their family. So how do I source my coffee? The first thing I work through importers. And when I first got started in this, I was very interested in doing direct trade, meaning the idea that I would go discover the farmers, buy directly from them, and that so ideally they would be getting more money for their coffee. As I've continued to go down this pathway, as I continue to discover more and more about the needs of the growers and the needs of the families, I realized and discovered that they needed more than just a little bit more per pound paid for the coffee. They need the support year round, not just during harvest season and when they're ready to sell coffee, but during the off season as well, when they're making decisions on what fertilizers to use. If the coffee plant takes 3 years to before it's matures enough to be able to harvest the cherries for the beans. And then after that, they probably get another 10, 12 years out of the coffee plant before they have to dig those up and replant new ones. So they're always in the process of renewing their plants and always in the process of doing this. So when they do need to plant new plants, it's better if there's somebody there that they can go to that has information about what's the next best varietal to start planting. As a coffee roaster that's here in the United States, I can't be there year round, especially if I'm sourcing coffee from 5, 6, 10, 20 different countries, or is one country I have 5 different regions I'm trying to source coffee from. I can't do that. So I partner with and work with importers that have the same ethos as I do and as Zelie Beans does. I wanted to go into that a little bit because I think direct trade is this phrase that we use I get some so-so because there's direct trade. But I was the same way. I really was that was something I really desired, but I realized that that's still better for the roaster in those here in the developed countries than it is for those that are producing, because ultimately we still get a better price, but we're not giving we're giving them more money one time, but we're not giving them additional aid and help as they need throughout the year.
Right.
So that's my big thing, is trying to, and I know you've interviewed with Novus coffee importers a couple times.
With Emily, yeah.
Yeah, with Emily. Novus is a great company. I actually source quite a few coffees from them. Balzac Brothers is another one. I direct from, I get it through my Guatemalan, comes from Yepocapa, Guatemala, which is a very small region in Guatemala, and that there was this importing company that was developed out of a couple missionaries that were working in Yepocapa, working with the farmers and the families, and they decided that the best way they could help was actually create an import-export company that would give their coffee farmers and these farmers access to a specialty market, so that they weren't just selling to the coyotes and intermediaries.
Yeah,
so,
I never realized. Sorry to interrupt you on there.
Yeah, no,
until I started talking with you and the other roasters that really focus on getting it, not even direct. I mean, they're building relationship with the farm. So I mean, it's that whole fair trade sticker. You can that's somebody's paying a lot of money to get that a lot of times on a bag, and it might not actually be what we would consider fair trade. It's that farm gate price that's really important that we're talking about, that farmer's not getting 89 cents and then somebody's turning around and selling it to somebody else for $1.89, and then that somebody turns around and sells it to somebody else for $2.89, and then by the time you get it, it's $7.98 for a pound of green.
Yeah,
and it's not that bad, but in some cases it is. There's that much markup on it. There's that much money not going to the farmer. And it really means a lot as I've delved into it and seen, the different practices from different countries, and how, it's really important to me, and it's really important to you as well, that we source our coffee responsibly. And, if everybody had a better logistics system, we wouldn't have the issue. We simply wouldn't have the issue. But with you working with responsible importers and everything, it makes it a lot easier. So tell me about your new offerings that you've brought on.
I guess there's like 3 new. I have the decaf. I have a decaf coffee, which I source it. Actually, I source it through Novus Importers. It's an amazing blend of Colombian Nicaraguan that they chose, and they sent it off to get decaffeinated Swiss water decaf, and Swiss water decaffeination process. And it's an amazing. It's just a good coffee. It's a really good coffee. Like, in being a decaf coffie, it just blows away any other decaf. I put it side by side with any regular coffee, and I would say probably the average coffee drinker, 2 times out of 3 would not know that that's a decaf coffee. It's really, really good. So I'm really proud of that one. I have a Colombian that's getting that I got from. It's a amazing Colombian. I sourced it through Balzac Brothers. They're another importer out of South Carolina that they're like have generations of experience, and they work the farmers, and they're interacting directly with the farmers, doing great stuff. It's amazing coffee. La Reserva is the name of it. What's really cool about this one is the coffee farm was abandoned previously because the previous farmers couldn't make it work financially. They were selling coffee to the commodity pricing, and they couldn't make it work financially. So they just abandoned the farm. This other young up and coming farmer was interested in doing a specialty coffee, saw this abandoned farm, was able to get into it and purchase it and revitalize it. And it's in the middle of nature reserve. Like Andean bears, like they have like some amazing stuff. It's in the middle of nature reserve in Colombia, and they in 2 years' time, he's been able to turn around what they're doing there and just producing some amazing specialty coffee. So and I love working with him Balzac Brothers and with him as he's continued to do this. My other coffees, it's new this season, but I had it last year, and it was a hugely popular coffee. It's the Honduran El Durazno coffee. Got my trash can taken out. The Honduran El Durazno, it's a honey processed coffee that is just, it's phenomenal. It's imported through Novus, and they are doing, they're part of the Lift program. Their Lift program that with Novus, if you have, I don't know if you heard, if Emily shared with you of some of that.
Yeah.
I love it. They also have the Seeds for Progress, which is every pound of coffee they donate, I think it's 5 cents to Seeds for Progress, which helps education in Nicaragua and other Central American countries. But this Honduras farm, El Durazno, is part of LIFT program, which they identify potential farms that and farmers and families that have like great land, great opportunity, but they're just not like having the right assets. They're not having the right places. So they go and work, educate the owner, educate the pickers that come in about what cherries to pick, what to do and how to do it. And then they help them bring it to market, help them get it processed properly so that they're starting to get specialty pricing. And this is their second year to do it. This is their second year for me to have their coffee. And it's just a phenomenal coffee. It's really, really amazing. It's a honey processed, so it has some more fruity notes, more sweet notes, and it's just really, really great. I love it.
Isn't that just like really neat to be able to build a relationship with a farm, you know, several thousand miles away for a little seed that we're getting from them, and to see how every year they grow and they become better because of the emphasis that we as consumers and you as a roaster are putting on the quality of coffee. Mm-hmm. And so when they get more money, they reinvest, and then you get better coffee year after year after year. And Tim last week was talking about how, you know, he had one coffee in 2017, and he finally was able to get his hands on it this week or this past month for the first time. And he had to buy it months before it ever landed because it was going to be, he's like, I knew it was going to sell out, and it did. And that is such a cool thing from my standpoint as somebody who is not a veteran to the coffee industry, not a veteran to specialty coffee, to go in and realize that there's this much that goes into these really, really cool products that anybody with a grinder and some hot water and the proper equipment can make delicious coffee at home at their leisure with. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's almost like brewing a magic potion. When, you know, it is. Who else?
I do like the sentiment of that, but I also like it's not magic at the same time. It's dedication of individuals along the way that bring this to market and bring it to fruition. It requires lots of hard work, and I think this is what I love about what you're doing, Chris, and what my goal is not just about roasting coffee and sourcing great coffee. It's about helping educate the consumer about this, not like understanding like where the coffee is coming from. Why would you pay $15, $16, $20 for a 12-ounce bag versus paying $7, $8 for a pound bag? Like, why would you pay difference? Especially if that $7 or $8 one says organic, or it says fair trade. Yeah. It's like all these other certifications. Why would I not want to get that? And we're going to pay so much more over here for that for your coffee. And there's I know you've learning more, and I'm learning more about why that is. So my job is not just as a roaster to roast the coffee and roast it well for the producers and the consumers. It's to help the consumer, the average consumer, understand what's behind all this. What's the man hours? What's the energy? What's the passion that went behind all this? That's what's so exciting. That's a bigger exciting part for me. like I'm not a genius when it comes to roasting coffee. A lot of people roast amazing coffee. My ultimately my gifts are trying to share that passion with others so that they see this great joy that's coming through. And besides the fact that, like you said, you can have an amazing cup of coffee, and the joy that an amazing cup of coffee can bring to you every single day. And then on top of that, knowing like the hands that have sourced it, that have worked with it all the way through, that joy that can be a part of your everyday routine, like it's hard to pass up.
It's almost as close as I can possibly get to me crawling out of bed in the morning, walking into the kitchen, and you'd be like, "Here you go, buddy." You know, like that's the only part that's not there.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be awesome if that could happen, but I can't afford you to live with me. It's just not going to happen.
Yep.
But that's the sentiment. That's the way I feel every time I go and I get up and I walk in. I'm like, all right, who's making me coffee this morning? It's Chris. It's Joseph. It's Tim. You know, I know where it's coming from. And, you know, I walk in with the cup of coffee for my wife and present it to her. And she's just like, tell me what it is. You know, she knows I'm going to tell her. She might not be enthused about it, but she knows I'm going to tell her about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just such a bonding point that I really want people to understand that it's just nice to share a really good cup of coffee. Even if it's something like you call me up and you say, "Hey Chris, I just sent you something. Let me know when you get it." And I make it. I text you back, "Hey, it's phenomenal. It's great. I taste cocoa and hints of tobacco and all this stuff." And you're like, "Yep, that's exactly what we're shooting for." You know, and that is sharing something directly, which you can't do with a lot of places or a lot of coffee roasters.
Yeah.
So tell me about what you've got going on now. You've just recently launched a new website.
Yes, I redid a website. Yep. It's transitioned to a more robust website through Shopify channel, and I'm really happy with that. I think it has more capabilities, and it ultimately makes it a little bit easier for the consumer as they get to the website and be able to search and find and do what they want to do with it. So that was a big thing, especially at the beginning of this whole coronavirus situation, being able to make the online shopping experiences painless and as easy for people that they really want to get their coffee and they want to support local and they want to support the farmers. So that maybe they're used to going to coffee shops and getting coffee made for them, but now they're exploring and trying to do it more at home. So I wanted to make sure that experience was as beneficial and as good as possible. So yeah, and then do you want me to keep sharing about my biggest upcoming?
Tell us how I want you to talk about your decision process going in that, because a lot of our viewers are other coffee roasters. I get a ton of roasters that message me after watching the show or drop me an email, and they're like, "Hey, I love what you're doing, and this part, what Joseph was talking about is exactly what I'm going through." And I want you to talk about how you decided, hey, you know what? I want to expand. I want to move the company forward. So go into that for me.
So I had already had an e-commerce site. You think it's okay for me to name the sites I was on and stuff like that?
Yeah, okay. You're fine. Go for it.
So I was using Square previously, and I got Square because it was I'm not technically inclined. I'm not like a coder or anything like that. And Square was similar to Wix. They just have like an easy, it looks beautiful, like without you really doing anything to it. And they had like the e-commerce part of it, the business. So I was able to really set it up really easily by myself and not needing a lot of worry about a bunch of technical stuff. So I had that. And I wanted it just to have an online presence and for people to have the opportunity to buy online. This was pre-COVID-19. My original focus was wholesale and trying to get more coffee shops. So I wasn't as worried about the website and about the e-commerce side of stuff. I did have subscription available, but it was kind of clunky in how they used it. And if they wanted to change anything, if they wanted to change how often they got the coffee, or even if they wanted to add, like, instead of 2 bags every 3 weeks, they wanted 3 bags every 3 weeks, it was very cumbersome and difficult. A lot of times they just had to like cancel one subscription and add a new one. It just wasn't a great experience, I think, for most of the consumers. And so when COVID-19 happened, and I had like an uptick in my e-commerce on my website, and I had customers that were already subscribers, and they're like, "Hey, I'm staying home more. I need more coffee. What do I need to do to add that to my subscription?" And I was like, "You have to do this, you have to do that, and it's kind of a pain." And it was like, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of you." Like, and so it was at that point I was looking at options. I knew about Shopify before, but it looked a little bit too complicated. It wasn't nearly as complicated as I thought it was going to be. But that, like, I wanted for the subscribers to have a subscription service capability to make any changes they need to on their own with as little difficulty as possible. Shopify has like apps that you tie into it, kind of like Shopify. I akin it to like an iOS. Like, you have your phone, your iOS, it has the basic built-ins of it. But based off of how you use your phone and how you use your iOS system, you add different apps to it that are geared towards what you need. If you're a gearhead or you work out a lot, and so you want to keep track of how much you work out, your steps, all that, you put those apps on it. If you don't do that, but you're really into music or different things like that, you put whatever apps on you need. That's what I akin Shopify to. So Shopify Basic, it has the basic online structure, e-commerce, what you need. If you want to add different things according to what your business needs are, they have the different apps, third-party apps that you add to it. Some of them have monthly fees, some of them don't. But to me, it was greatly worth it to be able to have like a dedicated, like a third-party app that their dedication is doing subscription services and doing it well. So I use Recharge, and I think they do a pretty good job. I think there's still some things that could be a little bit tweaked and a little bit better, but I think my customers are really enjoying that. The other thing with it, yeah, just other like add-ons, being able to have like pre-order easily added to it, having different features like that. It just makes it so much better, I think, for the consumer. And I've had a lot of positive reactions from it. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to move from where you were at to a better e-commerce platform, and that's always a sticking point for roasters. And I was talking to a gentleman a couple of weeks ago who's moving from, I believe he was on Square, and now he's moving to a WordPress site. You know, so he's upgrading. He's like, okay, now this is where I need to be. This is what I need to go for, and even. I was talking to another guy on LinkedIn today that builds apps for coffee shops. Mm-hmm. And we kind of just ran into each other on LinkedIn. And that's a whole nother ball game about, okay, hey, you know, do you want a Zelie or a Zelie bean app? You know, it's just like there's so much stuff that we can do for the customer, for the consumer to make it more friendly and more convenient. Have you seen a lot of increase in your subscriptions since you switched over?
So when I had a what's it called, transfer, like what's it called? So
migrate.
When I had to migrate my subscription users from Square to the Recharge, I think I had like 15 or 16. I now have 30 subscribers. Actually, I think I just counted. It was like 38. Of those 38, some of them, this is the other thing I love about it, I was able to create within the same system, not just ongoing subscriptions, but people can purchase 3 and 6 month subscriptions for themselves or for other people and it automatically they pay for it up front, and it automatically tells me when to ship out the next batch for them.
That's awesome.
And so that's like side by side, and I have that capability to do all that. And not just for me, but for the consumer. Let's say they want to be able to do they want to try you out, but they want to like the idea of they don't want to like how they have these gimmicks like sign up now free for and the goal is always you're gonna forget to cancel, and then you're gonna be stuck with it, and you're gonna keep on doing that. That's I'm not in it to try to play mind games or anything like that. If you want to just try us out for 3 months, 1 bag a month, you pay for it. You get a discounted rate because you signed up for a subscription, and it's easy. And yeah, you can do that. Yeah,
that's one of my biggest pet peeves is when you sign up for something and you have to go to the website and then call customer service or contact customer service because there's no easy way for you to find where to cancel it.
Yeah,
and it's and they've designed their website to where it's hard for you to get on and cancel it. So that way, if I'm like, oh man, I need to get on here and cancel this subscription and I can't find it. Okay, I'll do it tomorrow. Well, that tomorrow ends up going to all the way to the next month until that subscription hits your bank account. It's just not a good, just not a good practice at all. No, we've got one of my friends saying hi to everybody here. Chris Hill says, "Hey, Chris, and Zelie." That's awesome. That is awesome. So you've got the new website. Mm-hmm. Now tell us about and it's not really a crowd. It's not really a crowd fund, right?
Well, So I'm growing and I'm trying to grow. I've been bootstrapping this from the beginning. I told you how I got into this was I was able to rent time on another roaster's machine, it was as a roaster, that's a great way for me to get in because the upfront cost was diminished greatly. Commercial coffee roasters, other coffee roasters know that's the biggest expense you're going to make up front is going to be thousands of dollars. A cheap one, 5 to 7 grand. Yeah. And then it just goes up from there. I shouldn't say cheap. I should say inexpensive. I don't want to make it sound like they're poorly made. No. But an inexpensive one, which is small, it'll probably be 2 pounds that you're roasting at a time, and it goes up. So, and I didn't have money to buy a roaster at the time. So I wanted to kind of do it this way to have proof of concept. Yes, I can roast coffee, and more than just my wife and I enjoy it, and other people want to buy the coffee. So I'm 2 years in. Like I said, I have 38 subscribers of people that are committed to it. I have working still on some other wholesale accounts. Even in the midst of coronavirus, I still have shop owners and shop managers that we're talking about how to get Zelie beans to their customers there locally. And it's a fantastic feeling, but it still costs a lot of money to get started, even though it's going well. And so I wanted to do it, and I needed some money to get started with this. So I had options like anyone does in a small business to be able to even in the midst of coronavirus, there's still options to get money. I could have done a bank loan and paid whatever interest rate they would have had. I could have tried to find an investor to give me money, and then I would be I would have given up equity to them. But I didn't really like either one of those because there's parts of things that when I'm trying to do business, I want it to feel right. I want to feel because I'm so mission focused about the person, about families, and it just feels so impersonal to be doing it one of those two ways. And I discovered a while ago actually about so we know about Kickstarter, we know about GoFundMe, these crowdfunding websites. I discovered a couple of years ago that the SEC opened up the capability of crowdfunding investment sites. So the idea is, the basic concept is you open up for investment from multiple investors anywhere around the world. It's hosted on a website that or a company that's registered with the SEC, and they make sure that everything goes according to the antitrust laws, all this other kind of stuff. Make sure they're doing all that properly, and then anyone can invest in your business. It can, and they have very, like, at a very low amount to a very high amount, whatever it is you want. And I decided to do a crowdfunding way because to me that was like, that meets with the whole families helping families through specialty coffee. This idea that I'm not just going to the bank to get money. I'm not just going to one person and them giving me part of whatever excess of money they have, and they're going to get a part of business. It's a matter of other families and other like people that are from communities that share this, like, driven by this hope and this mission of families helping families, to be able to invest with and invest for Zelie beans and for the success of that. So it's the site that I'm working with is Fundopolis. That's Fundopolis, like Metropolis, but fund at the beginning. And if anybody's interested in Fundopolis and what they're doing in Zelie beans in the terms of the investment situation for Zelie beans, please check out Fundopolis. I'm trying to be, like, it may sound vague because I'm not talking a lot about the details on it. And I mentioned this to you at the beginning, Chris, that because you heard me talk about the SEC, because this is SEC regulated, there's the government that's making sure that everything we do is kosher. One of the things that they're very strict about is the advertising part of it. So I'm not allowed to, like, particularly in this situation, allowed to advertise the terms of what we're offering. But if you're interested, or even if you think it's just kind of curious, go check out Fundopolis. And if you look under the investments, you'll see Zelie beans coffee. You can see all the details of it there.
And so, I can post a link to that, correct?
Yeah, you can post a link to it. That's great. That's fine. Part of this whole project is me buying my own roaster. I think I'm able to talk about what the funds are going to. I think, buying my own roaster, getting my own location, buying more green coffee, and continuing the same mission that we're already doing, but being able to, like, definitely do it at a grander scale. So
that is fantastic. And
thanks, Chris.
No, it's awesome, and I just shared the link. It's in the comments on YouTube and Facebook. I'll turn around and put this on the link in the comments as well. It's a really, really cool. I'm going to share a screen here. I'm going to share your, I'm going to try to here. So I'm on a laptop running this show now instead of my big computer. So it's complicated. Let's see. Everybody who's watching the pod or listening to the podcast,
they're not going to see this.
They're not going to see it, but they can go on later on down the road and do this. Here we go. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
There we go. So that should be showing up now. It is. I can see my other computer screen over there.
Yeah.
And we're on the side. So that's really cool. It's, when I saw you post it, I went to the link and I was like, okay, what is this? And I really didn't dig very deep to see what it was about. But that's really cool. So if I go on here tonight and say, hey, I want to put $20, I'll own like $20 worth of Zelie beans. That kind of how it works.
So that goes into the terms part of it.
Okay.
So if you go to the website, when you scroll down, you can see the terms. It's a different type of term. So I just want you to go, like, you see where it talks about the opportunity, like that's me explaining more about Zelie beans, history, the terms, all that. And there's a Q&A on there too. So if you still have questions that still doesn't make sense, don't feel like your questions are quote unquote dumb or anything like that, because I have a friend of mine who has an MBA and he knows this stuff and he helps me a lot with that side of my business. And I'm sharing him with this and he's like, so wait, what is actually this saying? Like, what exactly is this doing? And I kind of walked them through it a couple times just so, so I would be happy to do with that with anyone else. If anybody wants to reach out to me and kind of like, so I don't, like you said, I don't quite understand, like, what does this mean? Do I have like, am I like, so, I'm trying to I'm towing that line. I'm trying to be good with SEC. because I'm just trying to be really good with that.
Yeah, I don't want them to knock on my door. You know,
Yeah.
my wife does that stuff for a living, and I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
want to
yeah.
have anything to do with that. I'm good. I'm good with the SEC. You know,
Yeah. No, yeah.
but that's really neat. That's the avenue that you have selected, and it looks like you're at $2,500 right there, so you're chugging right along.
I also felt it was better to get like a community base around it. It's not Kickstarter, so you're not trying to you're not waiting or buying a product from me. I mean, if you want to buy a product from me, you can go to my website and buy a product. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not doing a GoFundMe. I think GoFundMe has it's great for a lot of places, and there are coffee shops and places, especially minority owned and POC coffee shop owners and coffee roasters that definitely need help in this time. I mean, praise God, I'm blessed where I'm not at that point, but it definitely so that's why I wanted to do it this way as a way for people to actually invest, not just I've had a lot of people ask me, how can you help? How can I help? I have this is a new way for you to help. If you want to help with this mission and this vision, then this is one more new way to be able to help.
That's really neat. That's really neat. And I'm going to go on there tonight and do some things. I'm also going to put that link on your page on my website, and I'm probably going to put you up on the front page as well with the link, because it's just an amazing way of you always hear people say, shop local. And as an internet e-commerce guy, I'm always thinking, well, you don't necessarily have to stay local, but shop small.
Yeah.
Shop the little guy who roasting it, bagging it, putting the sticker on it, doing that whole part of it, because it means so much. There's the bag.
I put each sticker on myself. I date each sticker, stamp each one with the date roasted.
You don't get any more of the hands than that, and it's such a cool project. So that's really neat, and I'm going to go on and I'm going to look a little bit more into that and explore around. I had some really good luck, with I had some really good luck doing not necessarily luck. I did a Kickstarter, and I had some friends.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
I had some friends that invested a lot in the Kickstarter, donated a lot to the Kickstarter. And so now I'm always going back and finding little Kickstarters and being like, you know what, I'm going to pay this forward. I'm going to pay it forward. And in fact, that's a good segue. Next week, no, the 20th, I'm having a gentleman on the show who has invented what he's calling it Joe Presso, I believe it's called. And it's an attachment for the AeroPress.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
That is actually like a portafilter instead of a filter. I mean, it looks exactly like a bag or the attachment on an espresso machine. And he's getting the dissolved solids right around what you would with an espresso. So he's getting it really, really close. And I think it's 6 bars. So it's not pressure wise as much as an espresso, but it's a totally different consistency than you get out of the current espresso attachments. Yeah. And I saw him post on one of the coffee forums, and I was like, oh, hey, you're coming on the show.
That's really cool. Really cool.
But that's, he's doing a Kickstarter, and there's all these ways to crowdsource, crowdfund a company that really, really allows you to focus on what you need to do, and maybe frees you up some financial burden on it, which is really cool. When you make it, have you picked out your coffee roaster yet?
I have. It's an IMF roaster. It's based out of Italy. It's not a super popular roaster here in the U.S., but it's grown a lot of attention in Australia, which is the mecca of specialty coffee a lot. It's grown a lot of attention in Australia, Korea, Indonesia. It's been growing a lot, and it's an amazing machine. I'm so excited to be getting one. It's just a small 5 kilogram machine, so I'll be able to do just over 10 pounds at a time. But it does this great feature where it's super energy efficient. It heats up the air separately from the drum because it's a drum roaster, but it heats the air up separately. I actually have an interview where I interviewed one of the IMF people. They're based in Italy, Giorgio, and he does a great job of talking about it. But it heats up the air separately. It brings the air into the drum, and it has a mechanism that will mix the hot air with ambient air, and it'll mix it to whatever temperature you want it to be coming into the drum. So you have this amazing amount of consistency coming in. It pulls it into the drum, heats up the beans, comes down, and comes back out into the heating chamber. And so it's recycling that air. Any of the chaff that comes out goes into the heating air element and kind of it acts like a built-in afterburner. So it burns off a lot of the
cool.
And everything. So it's much better for the environment. Less chemicals are going in air. Not that there's a ton happening with coffee, but there is some. And the chaff, it's burning up the chaff, which is great. And yeah, it's a amazing roaster. The concept behind it is, like, my opinion, from what I can see, is so great. Probably the best out there. So
we've got a few comments in the chat here. We've got Chris Hill saying it's so important to have a great site. This is from a little bit earlier, that isn't slow and easy to change up. Square. Glad you moved away from it. And then we've got one of our viewers over on YouTube, RVA Traveling MIA Researcher. I was on his show a few weeks ago. He's stopping by to say hi over there. So we've got a couple people watching out there.
Awesome.
On the interwebs that are very interested in what you've got going on, which is really cool. You know, the ability to go in and look at this different roaster, and I assume you're choosing that for the specific, some of those specific qualities that you talked about, the control, the environmental impact of that. And a lot of people, unless they've watched it or they roast coffee, don't realize the span of degrees and temperature, that how it affects the coffee when it comes out. Because you can have a 3 or 4 degree difference and end up going and getting a whole different product, right?
And that's so important for the it all goes back to, for me, it goes back to the mission of families helping families through specialty coffee. If am I helping the family by, that's producing the coffee, that put all the effort in growing, the years of growing the coffee, the months of the picking and the processing and doing all of that, am I doing the best I can on being consistent so that what they grew and what they processed comes out so that the consumer gets to enjoy it the same way each and every time? Or am I being kind of willy-nilly about it and oh, well, it's roughly the same color, it's roughly the same flavor type of thing? Or am I trying to be consistent? Because it's not just, it's about the consumer. I want them to enjoy the cup of coffee. But you and I both know, the average coffee consumer, wouldn't necessarily tell the difference necessarily.
Or they wouldn't. Yeah. I think we don't give everybody.
We don't give everybody
enough credit.
I think they could tell enough of a difference, but I think ultimately it's I owe something to the producer and I owe something to the consumer. Am I doing the best I can? And part of it as well is an environmental situation. Am I doing everything I can as a coffee roaster for the better environment, and all that kind of stuff. Another part of that, actually, if you don't mind me sharing, my bags, they're bright red. I love them. They're amazing. These are, I source them specifically and intentionally because they are 100% carbon neutral, and they are 100% recyclable and plus a flexible plastic.
That's
so awesome. Just it's hard. It's hard to do everything we can, but it's important that whatever we do, we are intentional about it.
It's very important. One of the things you said there about the consumer. And one of my goals here, and I've been kind of working at it and looking at it, is bringing other people on the show. That way I can get a different point of view. I wish I could go back a year ago when I started my specialty coffee journey and get some questions I had then that I already know now. And it's like common knowledge, but it's a lot of people wouldn't be able to tell because they're making coffee with substandard equipment. There's ways to make really good coffee in a Mr. Coffee Pot. You can do it. Is it the best way to do it? Maybe not, but you can do it if you know what you're doing and you're getting the proper water in it. And I think that is an educational thing that we both need to concentrate. You know what? We might do a Saturday show one of these days where we just talk about how to make coffee in a Mr. Coffee Pot and help people out that way.
Yeah. That's a part of it as well. Like, I love what I see you doing, what I hope to be able to do with the space that I'm going to be moving into. I want to be able to offer some sort of courses or classes or like things for the consumer of how to do a better coffee at home. I think that's very important to be able to do that. And I think it's like, it's not as difficult. I want to like destigmatize it and demystify it. And then take away the fear factor, like the idea that it's like, oh no, that's too fancy. It's too like, no, like it's anybody can do it. Literally anybody can do it.
I have a real, sometimes I watch somebody do a V60 and they're like, I pour the water in at a 62.5 degree angle for 4.7 seconds. I'm just like, do you really? Is that really going to affect?
You can do you do you, right?
Yeah, I got a clever dripper downstairs that I can rock your socks off with, and I'm just like, dump, 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 dump.
My coffee I brewed earlier, just before this, I used the palm press, which I've shown people. It's a very newer product. It was actually on Kickstarter. It's a very great thing. It's a woman inventor, woman-owned business. This thing is fantastic. Super easy. You pour hot water, you grind it, put it in there, pour hot water over it, let it sit, turn it over, and push. That's it.
That's it.
Like, so easy.
It's
like,
fantastic.
It doesn't have to be complicated. Yeah.
Fantastic coffee. It's, a lot of that is, it's a lot of it's sourcing those beans from the right roaster, finding that one you like, or finding a whole bunch of the ones you like. And, that's your quality control. It's getting those beans that are, subscription went out Monday. Okay. So our dark roast subscription went out Monday. The orders went out Monday. They were roasted Monday. And Chris Johnson from Purify, I don't know if you know Chris.
I know Chris. He's a great man.
Great man. He texted me. He's like, hey, you're on this list. I'm like, yep, that's me. He's like, okay. Well, he dropped it in the mail on Monday, and I had it in the mail on Tuesday. I mean, of course, it went from one side of spring to the other.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, I'm not even going to open it yet because it's still off gassing. It's still not there, But that's such a cool thing to be able to do. And there's coffee being delivered all over the states that was roasted 3 days ago, and it's going to be wonderful and perfect. And somebody who really cared about those beans was involved with that product the whole way through up until it got to your doorstep. And it's just such a cool process to be involved with.
Yeah. No, I love doing it. I absolutely love doing this. It's amazing.
So we've only got a few minutes left, but tell us about, let's say, because I'm always one of the guys that, look at the silver lining or looks at the sunset or the favorable look. Let's say in 105 days, is it 105 days? How long do you got on the fund? 102.
102 days left. Yeah.
So let's say in 102 days, you've reached that minimum goal. So you've reached it. What's your next steps? Where are you going with it?
So the next steps, if I reach the minimum goal, is to make the final payment on the roaster and get that down here as quickly as possible. I'm already found a space that I'm probably going to be signing a lease on pretty soon. And then I'll be spending the time in between now and then getting the space ready for the roaster. I'm very optimistic, like you, Chris. I expect to meet the minimum. I'll be quite shocked if I don't meet the minimum. The next thing is like, okay, so what happens if you raise more than that? So the minimum really helps me get the roaster set up into the new space. That's it. The anything additional over that starts to go into buying more green coffee, buying more in bulk because I'll have more space that I'll be able to keep it, and get better pricing on it, and be able to like help and get it from multiple sources. The other thing is getting quality control equipment, getting color meters, getting the moisture meters, all of that, which those alone are thousands of dollars just for
Right.
piece of those type of equipments. They're but they're worth it because it helps you with keeping track of the quality of your coffee you're coming out with. And then after that, it's going to be going into maybe some maybe like a little bit of aesthetical build out an actual space to make it a little bit more pleasing for when people come in, and they can actually because I want to have a place where people can come in and purchase coffee in person. I'm not going to be having a shop. I'm not going to be doing that, but I will be opening. I have the ability of being able to allow other baristas to come in and do a pop-up situation.
That's cool.
And I love that opportunity to be able to like do that. And like that may require a little bit extra money put into this that feature of being able to allow like these men and women that have been either out of work or they're like underworked right now because of the coronavirus situation, but they create excellent coffees. Maybe they just need a 1 or 2 days a week to be able to have a place where they can serve coffee out of. I want to be able to do that, be able to offer the classes. And so, yeah, that's kind of next steps.
That's exciting. And I definitely want to be there for if you have the ribbon cutting or anything, just give me a heads up, that way I can box up the kids and get them somewhere where they're not going to eat pennies and go to that's a long story. Anyway.
No, yeah, I get it.
But
I had my daughter in emergency room 2 weeks ago. So
we almost didn't have a show tonight, but everybody's okay. So yeah. somebody decided to eat a penny on me this afternoon, but everybody's okay. And we had the show, and I didn't burn the brisket that was on the smoker. So multi-talented here.
Yes.
It's so cool, and I'm so excited to be a part in one little way of this journey from last year when I started, or this year last year when I started. You were the first roaster that was officially on the website, and now we're growing, and I've got there's 27 I think on there now, and we've got some in the wings waiting. Sorry about the kids in the background. But it's just an interesting process, an awesome process to be able to grow with someone of your character and your caliber, and somebody I like to call a friend. And so, Joseph, thanks for joining us tonight. I look forward to working with you again in the future and talking more about your growth. And we'll have to have you on before that 102 days is up again as our audience grows, and we'll talk about this as well. And one question, because I still got a minute, are you going to have are you going to open your roaster up to other coffee roasters?
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
Yeah, to me, yeah, definitely. I've already I wouldn't have been able to start this if it was up to me buying my own roaster. It took that openness of someone else to open up their roaster and allow me to use their machine in their space. I want to be able to do that for other people as well, because I do believe our market is way undersaturated with good coffee roasters, and I think we can use more. And I want to be able to help other men and women out doing that. It's actually a really big thing on my heart right now with the racial injustice situations with POC and women. And I really would love any opportunity I can to help men and women of color, really help them get the as much of a leg up as they can, in our situation here in the United States and the world. It's just I want to be able to do whatever I can to help others out.
That's awesome, Joseph. And I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to drop you off. But I'll meet you back up in the green room, so don't go anywhere.
But
Oh, where can we find you at? Where's your website?
Website, Zelie Beans Coffee. That's Zelie beanscoffee.com. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Zelie Beans or at Zelie Beans Coffee. I have a Twitter. I never use it, so it's probably not worth it finding it. So yeah.
I'll have to go find your Twitter just to start tagging you and it makes you use it. I appreciate it, Joseph. I'll hit you up in the green room.
Peace.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in to tonight's Common Grounds podcast, the Meet Your Coffee Roaster series. I'm Chris from Roasters Marketplace. Thank you so much again. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button down. I think it's down in this corner. Yeah, hit the subscribe button to the show. Share us with your friends. We're doing awesome things at Roasters Marketplace. We're doing awesome things on the Common Grounds. We've got more shows coming up, more guests lined up. I think I'm totally booked up for September, and we've got some special stuff coming. So once again, we're going to roll this show out with my buddy Dom Kors, who you can find on Spotify and Amazon. So here we go. Where's my brand at? Where's my show? There we go. Have a great night. Thanks for listening.